Hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you, and then you turn around and create your own content on said topic. Why people read. Yes, why people read. And the subject for tonight is ebooks. I want to know this. I want to talk about why people read ebooks. Now, I can't speak for everybody, so what I'm going to do is share why I personally read ebooks. So I've come up with some reasons here, some personal reasons why I like to read ebooks. And first, let's just start off by addressing the elephant in the room, and that is storage space. Yes, I didn't buy a tablet because I have anything against the publication of physical books. But I do not consider myself much of a collector when it comes to books. So, for that reason, I am very picky when it comes to purchasing physical books for the sake of adding them to my personal library. I originally bought my Kindle so I could read more books by indie and self-published authors. But this isn't to say that I am against owning physical copies of their work. It's just that physical books take up physical space. And let's face it, if I bought a physical copy of every book that I choose to read, then I would slowly but surely increase my need for square footage and or a place to dump or donate the dross that takes up valuable shelf space. I wouldn't feel right about throwing books in the trash. So I would either have to temporarily store them someplace until there's enough to warrant a trip to a bookstore that's willing to take them, or a Goodwill, or else I will be frequently making trips to either of those places, which is not how I would like to spend my time. When it comes to collecting physical books, one thing to keep in mind is that physical books not only require physical space, but each physical book adds literal weight to your library, which makes moving around a pain in the ass. With an e-reader, not only can I store thousands upon thousands of ebooks on a single device, but the actual weight of carrying around a literal library does not go beyond the physical specs of the device itself. No longer is it necessary to pick and choose which books will be packed for travel, not to mention the fact that you can read virtually anything in public and everyone around you would be none the wiser. So, for instance, if you just so happen to be someone who likes to read erotic content featuring extraterrestrials that have extra testicles and or tentacles without having to explain yourself or face embarrassment, you might want to think about it. An e-reader could make for a good travel companion as far as that goes, not to mention the damage prevention to precious physical books by doing so. I don't know about you, but I like to keep all my physical books in good shape. I don't like busted spines, putting stickers on books, and I do not write on any of my books, which brings me to another reason why I read ebooks. The software features and tools of e-reading apps. So, like I said before, I bought my Kindle with the intent to read and review more books from the independent market. In order for me to write my reviews and editorials, there's quite a few things I have to do while I'm actually reading the material, from color tabs, highlighters, bookmarks, as well as on the fly annotations. I can effectively mark up my ebooks without doing any permanent damage because everything I do can be edited or deleted. So here's so for instance, here's something that I'm currently reading, I can open up the app and bada boom, bada bing, it opens up to where I last closed the app. So, and I have the page bookmarked right here. But you could put in several bookmarks depending on where you are. So not only can I open that, navigating is so easy, but I won't get into that just yet. But I want to open up my notebook. So I got my digital notebook right here. Okay, you can see I'm already starting to take some notes, and you can see these colors on the left here. So you can open that up and you got all your highlights right there. And it tells you how many highlights, the number of highlights you have for each individual color. And they give you 4 different colors to work with. Then you have your notes tab down here. And then you have your bookmarks, the number of bookmarks that you've placed inside. So this is great. So just a little inside, just to show it, just to like actually like show it how that works. But I'll give you a little behind the scenes. When I'm reading a book, what I'll do is I always use these little highlighter tabs. So I use my yellow, for instance, like I'd be interested to know if you guys use these features, like if you read ebooks and like what you do with them. For me, I'll use yellow to kind of like mark down every time there's a new character introduced in a story. Regardless if I know whether or not they're a support character or if they're going to play a main role in the plot, doesn't matter. Anytime there's a name that is dropped in a story, I'll just highlight that name in yellow and just add it to the list. So then when I'm going back and I'm writing my reviews and I need to know, whether it be a character's name or if I need to know a total amount of characters that were introduced in a story, I can just click that tab and I get a big long list of just a bunch of names that I've highlighted while I was reading. Now the blue tab, I use that to highlight basically any kind of interesting or plot points or anything like that I wanted to maybe mention later on, or I think may be important to bring up later. The pink I don't use very often. The pink is really just for like locations, setting, basically just locations and setting if there's any that need to be remembered. And then the orange tab I use for quotes, any kind of interesting quotes or something like that I might want to take note of. So this makes taking notes for my editorials a piece of cake, especially when I read before going to bed, which I often like to do. Now, if this was a physical copy of a book, then I would need to have a notepad handy, a bookmark. I would have to flip between pages to recall any specific reference point. And God forbid I forget to write down where it was in the book. Even if I forget to highlight a passage while I'm reading an ebook, I can always bring up the search function and just type in some key words I remember. It's also interesting sometimes to see if an author has a crutch word. As an author, I think I have several crutch words, but I digress. Although my final reason for reading ebooks has to do with the fact that I also have ebooks published on the market, which means putting my money where my mouth is. I consider this reason to be a matter of ethics, where my principles take precedence over preference. To me, it just wouldn't make sense to expect other people to purchase my ebooks if I was someone who personally refused to financially support that format. Every time I spend money on ebooks, not only is it a means of justifying my own published work, but I feel as though it's a way of validating the ebook format itself as a reader and reviewer, while also appreciating the indie market as a paying customer. What a concept, huh? It's almost as if it's just the right thing to do. Now, this isn't to say that, I should own it's the only format I'll read. indie or anything like that. Like I do have physical copies of indie books as well. And, there's actually nothing, this may come as a surprise for some people, but there's actually nothing stopping you from owning multiple editions of the same book. I know readers who do that all the time, especially with their favorite titles. Lord of the Rings comes to mind. People have there are people out there trying to collect, it seems like, every single edition of the Lord of the Rings. But say I'm talking formats. So say like some people like to switch between. Let's say you buy the ebook format for reading while you're in bed or something like that. Before you go to bed, you're just reading the ebook. But then like you don't finish the book and then you want to continue the book, say when you go to the gym or something like that, or you're doing your workouts, and you would get an audio book format of the book to like pick up where you left off. I know there's some people that like to do that. Me, I don't typically do like the switching between formats like that. Like if I just like start reading a book in whatever format, I usually just finish it in that format. But that's just a personal thing based on the time that I have. I usually do have the time to dedicate to just reading a whole book, usually within a couple sittings, depending on the length. So do you read ebooks? And if you do, what are your reasons for doing so? Perhaps you have something you'd like to say about my reasoning. If that's the case, then I say go ahead, make your own video. Let me know how you really feel.